This is Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis.
Yeah, it's time for the Saturday edition, and it's busy couple of hours ahead. Lots going on in the National Hockey League. We have the Eastern Conference Final starting up on Friday. Western Conference Final gets going on Saturday. Then we're back and forth for the next week and a half until we get to the elimination process. And we got it all covered from last night's game. That was not what I expected. To see. We'll look ahead to this evening's game with the Vegas Golden Knights in Winnipeg to take on the Jets. Still sounds kind of funny to say that. Even though we've known about it for a couple days, it just seems a little odd, a little curious, but we're looking forward to it. Got you covered on that, plus everything else that's going on within and around the National Hockey League as well. A little bit of reflection on teams that have been eliminated. Teams are already busy in the offseason, making news and getting set for the NHL Draft and all that's going on. We got you covered. Isabelle Khurshudyan will be with us this hour. We'll talk about the Washington Capitals. She covers the Caps for the Washington Post. What a big victory over the Tampa Bay Lightning to take a 1-0 series lead in the Eastern Conference Final. Chris Peters covers the National Hockey League and NHL prospects for ESPN.com. He will be with us this hour as well. Jim Diamond has covered the Nashville Predators for AP and Rinkside Report, also coming up on the program. We will endeavor to find out just what happened with the Nashville Predators. And Joe Smith, who covers the Tampa Bay Lightning for The Athletic in Tampa Bay, will be with us as well. We're loaded up over the next couple of hours, got everything covered in terms of the NHL at Hockey Unfiltered, at Todd Lewis Sports, our Twitter and Instagram handles, and that's where we're looking for your nominations for the HU Dog of the Day. Hockey Unfiltered Dog of the Day, we do it every Saturday. We just look for your nominations of your dog, a great dog you know and love. Send us a picture through Twitter, through Instagram, at Hockey Unfiltered, at Todd Lewis Sports, and use the hashtag HU Dog of the Day. We select a winner every Saturday. We put the photo up on our website. It goes up on our Facebook page as well. We like to recognize and promote great dogs. At Hockey Unfiltered, at Todd Lewis Sports on Twitter and on Instagram. A busy couple of hours ahead, and I'm not really sure where to start. It's the weekend. It's the middle of May. The Stanley Cup playoffs have passed the midway point now. We're into the second half of the postseason. Yeah, we're halfway there. But it's not been what I have expected. Not just game number one between the Washington Capitals and the Tampa Bay Lightning, with the Caps coming up with a 4-2 victory, but there has been a lot of unexpected during these playoffs. Did we expect to see two teams sweep playoff matches in the first round? Don't think so. I didn't see anybody predicting that. Did we expect one of them to be a first-year team from Las Vegas? Nope. Did we expect to see one team go down 2-0, dropping both of the opening games at home, and then come back and win the series by winning 4 straight? No. Did we expect to see a second-round series where one of the winning teams scored 3 of their 4 victories in the other team's building? Sure didn't. Did we expect to see the Washington Capitals defeat the Pittsburgh Penguins? Why would we? Hasn't been able to happen the last few years. Did we expect that to happen this year? I don't know. With what's gone on the last couple of seasons, where the Caps were primed for the deep playoff run, we're going for it. That was the plan in previous years. It never happened. They never were able to get past the Pittsburgh Penguins, but it did happen this year. There has been a lot of unpredictable in the postseason. And as mentioned, we are just now getting into the conference final matchups, and we will likely see a lot more of the unpredictable, both in the Eastern Conference, Washington-Tampa series, and in the Western Conference final, which gets going a little bit later on, Vegas and Winnipeg. This is what draws us into the playoffs, though. This is what takes us and brings us on a nice ride every year, is this unexpected. Maybe we should have been anticipating more of the unexpected in these playoffs. Maybe we should have been thinking, this is what we expect to see, Maybe we're going to go the other direction, and I'm going to think it's going to be the opposite. Maybe it's the George Costanza theory. If every instinct I have is wrong, why wouldn't I do the opposite? Maybe we should have expected more of that. Maybe we should have expected more of the unexpected in the NHL playoffs as the way the NHL has evolved. Look at the teams that are remaining in the Final Four of the Stanley Cup playoffs. Last night's matchup with Tampa and Washington. Tampa missed the playoffs last year. Sure, they were a good team, but they missed the playoffs. Washington, as has been well detailed, haven't been able to get past the Pittsburgh Penguins, and that's who knocked them out a year ago. Winnipeg Jets missed the playoffs last year. And the fourth contestant in this Stanley Cup Derby, the Vegas Golden Knights. At this time a year ago, they consisted of a bunch of people in an office. There were no players. There was none of that stuff. They weren't around. They weren't part of it. They were a bunch of office staffers trying to figure out how to put this whole team together. So there has been a lot of the unexpected, and expect to see more of the unexpected. Game 1 of the Eastern Conference Final, Amalie Arena, full house, big crowd, loud, vocal, enthusiastic, excited for their Tampa Bay Lightning to get going and jump into the Eastern Conference Final against the Washington Capitals, a team that hasn't been to this point in the playoffs for 2 decades. There's a big crowd outside. Everyone is cranked up. Everybody's ready for a good series. Everybody's excited and looking forward to seeing what's going on. A good series between 2 good teams. And what we got in game number 1 of the Eastern Conference Final was one team that came to play, and the other one, wow, I really don't know. I watched and was really puzzled by what I saw on Friday night by the Tampa Bay Lightning. You're going to hear all kinds of expressions, have it already. It started last night. It's going to continue today, and it will continue until Sunday when game number 2 gets going. They were flat. They were rusty after too much rest. They, well, plain and simple, laid an egg. They didn't elevate their game to a new higher level for the 3rd round of the Stanley Cup playoffs. Pick the one you want. There might be a little bit of merit in all of them. I don't know. But it was really shocking. This was really unexpected to me, especially because going into round number 2, Tampa had a long layoff and kind of got it handed to them in game number 1 by the Boston Bruins. You can look back to the 2nd round series and see that Boston came in and they beat the Lightning in game 1 of that series, and that's a quick comparison. However, it's not exactly parallel. Washington jumping out to the first period lead, taken over game 1, had several people suggesting same kind of thing. It's not entirely the same situation. It's not the same as the Bruins in the 2nd round. Bruins didn't have any time off following their first round matchup with the Leafs. It was like finish, bang, change, travel, get ready, go again. Boston jumped right into the 2nd round. Boston went right away. Tampa had 6 days off after round number 1. So there's a big difference. The Bruins are in a rhythm. They're going. It's every other day. Bang, bang, bang. Tampa got a week off. It's a vacation. Prior to game number 1 of the Eastern Conference Final, Tampa had 5 days off. The Capitals had 4 days off. I didn't see that as being a big advantage or disadvantage to one team or the other, or a significant factor in how the game was going to play out on Friday night. Does one extra day make that much difference? Because there's people who are going to say, oh, yeah, well, you know, Tampa had a long time off before their 2nd round matchup against Boston, and the same thing happened. Well, it's not exactly the same thing, because Washington had a significant amount of time off as well. It's hard to believe that one extra day off would make that much difference. There's the other mental aspect of the series that received an appropriate amount of attention. What kind of Capitals team are we going to see after defeating their arch nemesis, the Pittsburgh Penguins? They had been kryptonite to the Washington Capitals. But they found a way. They got past them. They got the job done this year. And they did it without their number one center in the final game, too. So they certainly had the benefit of a mentally and physically taxed Penguins team, but it doesn't matter. They won the series, and it's natural for every one of the Washington Capitals players and every member of that organization to say, well, okay, what happens now? We've never done this before. Something we've all said at different points in our life, but maybe 4 days was just the right amount of time for them to have off. Maybe the Caps, after scoring an overtime victory against the Pittsburgh Penguins in game number 6 of the second round, had the right amount of time off to score the victory, to celebrate it, to enjoy it, and then refocus themselves and realize, hey, we're only halfway there. We're only through 2 rounds of what we hope is a 4-round playoff this year. We got to move on to round 3 now. We got to go up against the Tampa Bay Lightning. We got to go up against the best team in the Eastern Conference. From the beginning of game 1 on Friday, Caps were the better team. It continued for the entire game. And that was unexpected to me. Yes, Tampa had some better moments in the third period. I will grant you that. They scored a couple of goals. They had some better moments in the third period. But the game was already over at that point. Don't tell me that in the third period, okay, we're gonna jazz things up and we're gonna mount a comeback. No, that was not happening. You could tell that nothing was going to happen in the third period. John Cooper, the coach for the Lightning, had already pulled out Andrei Vasilevsky, sent in Louis Domingue for mop-up duty. Maybe it was a message to the team, but I suspect it was more about leaving Vasilevsky in there to endure another 20 minutes of the nonsense that he had already taken in the first 2 periods. There is no need for that. This is a guy we're going to have to rely on coming back in the series. There's no need for him to go out and participate in the third period. For the way the rest of the team has been playing, all the keys to the game and the series that I looked at on our pregame edition of Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis Friday on the Tampa Bay Lightning Network, all of the keys that we looked at, there was some significance, and there were some that just got turned upside down. Washington power play. We've said it all through the regular season. It continued in the postseason. You cannot put the Washington Capitals on the power play. It will burn you, especially because the Lightning penalty kill has not been good all season. And that's continued into the postseason. That's what kept the Bruins around as well as much as they were. This was not a fair fight between the Washington Capitals power play and the Tampa Bay Lightning penalty kill. This was no secret, but this is what we saw. When Alex Ovechkin hammered one at the end of the first period with only a couple of seconds remaining on the clock, especially with the way it turned around so quickly because of the too many men on the ice penalty, you knew what it was happening. That's where the game turned, and it was over right there. That big a swing wasn't going to happen. Lightning had just finished up a power play of their own. Nikita Kucherov got sprung on the breakaway. Nope. Even though the puck went by Braden Holtby, looked like Tampa had even the score. Not so fast, because the officials were right on it and they correctly blew the play dead. Too many men on the ice. No goal. Caps on the power play. Seconds left in the period. And Ovi hammers it home. That's your gut punch right there. You can pick out all kinds of moments from game number 1 and see that one team was excited and ready to perform, while the other was flaccid and resulted in disappointment. Caps fans will get some pleasure in the ultimate finish, but it's even still not as satisfying as it could have been. We'll get into more of this game. We'll look ahead to the Winnipeg Jets and the Vegas Golden Knights. It still sounds funny to say that it's going to happen. That's the the series in the West, that the winning team is going to play for the Stanley Cup. It still sounds funny, but I'm excited about it, and I'm looking forward to it. Isabelle Khurshudyan will join us in the next segment. We'll talk more about the Capitals and this victory. Chris Peters coming up later on. We'll talk about teams that are busy in the offseason, looking at prospects and what we might see lying ahead at the draft. Jim Diamond with a review of the Nashville Predators and what went wrong. Joe Smith also talking Tampa Bay. He's worth the Athletic in Tampa Bay. At Hockey Unfiltered, at Todd Lewis Sports, our Twitter and Instagram handles. More on the Washington Capitals coming up with Isabelle Khurshudyan right after the break.
Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis sends you to the biggest events at the best prices. This year, we've partnered with Seat Giant to give you special deals on tickets to NHL games, concerts, or other events. Simply go to SeatGiant.com, find the tickets you want. When you check out, use the promo code TODD for a special discount. That's promo code TODD for a special discount. Start saving with SeatGiant.com on your next purchase. Get your business started getting more leads. 1-844-SEO-LEAD. The number to call if you want more online leads for your business is 1-844-SEO-LEAD. Search engine optimization can be the difference between success and failure. It's no coincidence which businesses are listed first in Google searches. Call 1-844-SEO-LEAD. Now it's even easier to nominate your dog as the Hockey Unfiltered Dog of the Day. We do it every Saturday. Send us a photo on Twitter or now on Instagram with the hashtag HU Dog of the Day. We choose a winner every Saturday. That's simple. Now on Instagram or Twitter, send us the photo using the hashtag HU Dog of the Day, and your dog could be the one added to our gallery on the website and Facebook page. It's the Hockey Unfiltered Dog of the Day every Saturday. Cutting-edge design for manufacturing, Nova Product Design. Industrial design, mechanical engineering and design. Nova Product Design provides experienced design for parts and assemblies, manufacturing, assembly, and serviceability. From plastic parts to sheet metal forming, mold and tool design, injection molding, and more. Nova Product Design. Visit novaproductdesign.com to learn more. So you had to get groceries, take your daughter to dance class, and a pipe burst in the kitchen. You missed Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis. No problem. All of our shows are available as a podcast right after the show airs, so you can listen when life gets in the way of hearing us live. Subscribe through iTunes and get alerts as soon as the podcast is available, or go to our website, hockeyunfiltered.com, and listen. Plus, check out the other cool stuff. The Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis podcast. Subscribe now through iTunes.
This is Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis. It's the Saturday edition. We're here every Saturday and Sunday live at 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific at hockeyunfiltered.com. We're streaming live on the Hockey Unfiltered app. It's available now for download at the App Store, all powered by Primetime Radio. Live on Facebook, on Periscope, YouTube Live. Our podcasts are available as well. You can subscribe through iTunes, through iHeartRadio. They're available on our website, hockeyunfiltered.com, and through the Hockey Unfiltered app. And that includes our little Saturday podcast, a little midweek podcast that drop on Wednesday afternoon. It's just our way of keeping the hockey conversation going through the week, because so much has been going on. There's been a lot of news this past week. We want to keep you covered on the Eastern Conference Final between the Washington Capitals and the Tampa Bay Lightning. Caps up 1-0 after the Friday night victory. We're looking ahead to the Western Conference Final between the Winnipeg Jets and the Vegas Golden Knights on Saturday. But there's a bunch of other stories in the NHL world that we'll touch on as well. Oh, should mention, just saw this a little while ago, that in advance of game number 1 of the Western Conference Final between the Jets and the Vegas Golden Knights, they did this in the last round. They're doing it again outside because of the enormous crowd and part of the celebration at the in Winnipeg outside Bell MTS Place. They're going to do another RCAF flyover. Good for you. I'm liking this. I mentioned this before. I don't recall, other than those Winter Classic games, I don't know that there's been a flyby and stuff by the Air Force, but good for them. The RCAF CT-155 Hawk training jets will fly over. I'm not sure if you'll be able to hear them because of the crowd and the noise that they have been generating in Winnipeg because of the excitement in advance of game number one. But good for everybody for participating in this, and I think it's really cool. Coming up later on this hour, Chris Peters from ESPN.com will join us. There are teams that have been busy at work and are already getting prepared for the NHL entry draft that's coming up in Dallas. They're looking at changes to their teams for the offseason. We'll talk to Chris about prospects and some other things as well, and hoping to catch up with Isabelle Khurshudyan from the Washington Post to talk about the Caps and their victory in game number one over the Tampa Bay Lightning. 4-2 was the final. Braden Holtby, 19 saves required from Braden Holtby. Oh my goodness. 19 saves in an Eastern Conference final game. 19 saves required. Oh my goodness. That's an indicator of how lifeless the Tampa Bay Lightning were through this game. I know they scored a couple of goals in the third period. The game was over at that point. It had already been decided. Oh my gosh. It was awful. The game was over at that point. Man, oh man. That was it was not what I expected. I really expected a much closer game, a much more hard-fought game between the two teams, and this was really unexpected to me. Capitals score and get one to go up 1-0. The goal by Michael Kempny, 7.5 minutes in, shot from the point, traffic out front. We talked about this in the last week or two with the Washington Capitals as they were making their way through the postseason. The pickup of Michael Kempny from the Chicago Blackhawks near the trade deadline. What an astute pick. What a nice acquisition. Just kind of solidified and shored up their defense. Really good. Really good. Gave them a little more depth, gave them a little more help. That's something that they were in need of. This is a different Capitals team than there was at the start of the season. They had defensive needs, and they addressed them at the trade deadline. Didn't go out and make the big splash like they did a year ago, getting a Kevin Shattenkirk, but bringing in someone who can perform and give you the minutes that you need, help out on a nice pair with John Carlson. It's been a nice pickup for the Washington Capitals. But there's all kinds of moments from game number one that you can look at and say, this was the turning point, certainly late in the first period, when Alex Ovechkin picked up his 9th goal of the postseason. 9th goal of the postseason. 9 goals from Alex Ovechkin. That's 4 on the power play now. The big twist and turn, of course, because the Tampa Bay Lightning thought they had scored the tying goal. It was called back because of a too-many men on the ice penalty. The play was whistled down, and it was very evident that this was a problem. Something was not right with the Tampa Bay Lightning. I don't know. Tampa had 2 shots on goal in the first period. They managed 8 in the second period. That's not an effort worthy of being an Eastern Conference finalist. There was a little more effort given in the third period, but as I mentioned, by then the game was long over. I understand that having a power play goal scored on you in the final seconds of the first period to make it 2-0 for the visitors is a gut punch and takes time to recover from that. But I didn't see much recovery. I didn't see much effort in the second period. I thought all it did was fuel the Washington Capitals, and I didn't see enough from the Tampa Bay Lightning. There's no way the Caps were going to fold up after going up 4-0 after 40 minutes. 2 power play goals. What did we say was one of the keys to this series? If you were with us yesterday on our pregame show. Washington power play, Tampa penalty kill. This is the best example of it. 2 power play goals. Braden Holtby barely broke a sweat in the first 40 minutes. When there was a decent shot that did manage to come his way later in the game, he was there. The Caps played a disciplined, structured, smart game. They did it without their number one center for the second consecutive game. No Nick Backstrom. That was the same way they played to close out their last series against the Pittsburgh Penguins. Now, Washington did get Tom Wilson back into the lineup, and that certainly helps, having someone of his ilk in the lineup. You get your lines back to normal. Well, sort of. Of course, no Nick Backstrom means everybody moves up, but everyone was up for the challenge for the Washington Capitals. No one was up for the challenge for the Tampa Bay Lightning. Tom Wilson was in the game, played over 15 minutes, but was barely mentioned. There was no running around. There was no nonsense. In fact, I thought it was Tampa that was trying to be more physical, and that's not their game. Some of that, I'm sure, comes from frustration, lack of execution, trying to get jump-started, trying to get motivated, trying to get something going. But if it gets to that point and you're the Tampa Bay Lightning, it's gone too far already. It had already spiraled out of control. Tampa credited for 27 hits in the game, way more than Washington. Tampa needs to be physical, but not in the throwing body check sense. Being physical to get to where they want to be and need to be on the ice to be successful. Being physical when it comes to battling for a puck up against the boards, not just reaching in with your stick and thinking, I'll just pull that out with the toe of the stick and we'll be on our way from here. Doesn't work like that in the postseason. Doesn't work like that against the Washington Capitals. But that was not an engaged, physical presence that I saw from the Tampa Bay Lightning. They weren't engaged, period, for the whole game. Now, Tampa's down 1-0 again in the playoff series. It's not an insurmountable lead. They bounced back against Boston. They ripped off 4 straight wins. They earned their spot here in the Eastern Conference Final. But this is a different team. And this is a different playoff year. This is a year of unexpected happenings in the postseason. We have seen things in these NHL playoffs that we were not anticipating. Sure, that happens every year, but there's been a great quantity of it throughout the postseason, in the East, in the West, and in just about every series in the playoffs so far. We've seen home ice advantage almost disappear. It may not be the same kind of advantage that it once was in the playoffs, especially. This year in the postseason, the visiting team has won more games than the home squad. And the Capitals have been one of the most prolific in this areas. With their victory over the Tampa Bay Lightning on Friday, 4-2, Caps over the Lightning, Washington is now 6-1 on the road. Tampa had only lost 1 game at home prior to Friday. And I did not think this was going to be a big factor in the series. I know this is what we had seen leading up to the start of the Eastern Conference Final, but I did not expect Washington to continue to win on the road at this rate. Maybe now we're all looking at the Caps' home record and not worrying too much because they're 3-3, but any coach, any player will tell you you want to have home ice advantage, even in this year of the unexpected, even in this time when we're seeing a lot of things that weren't anticipated. In the East and in the West, you'd rather have home ice advantage. Now, I don't think there's any question that Tampa will have a better effort for game number 2 coming up on Sunday. But what do the players want to do? What should they be doing? What does John Cooper want to do leading up to game number 2? What happens between the end of game number 1 on Friday and leading up to puck drop on game number 2 on Sunday night? I don't know. This is maybe out of character and maybe something that normally wouldn't happen, but this is the year of the unexpected. If I'm John Cooper, I might blow up at this point. I don't know that I would have done it post-game. John Cooper's not the tirade type, but now might be the time that it works. Blow up, kick over garbage cans, throw stuff at the wall, get your team's attention. I know that's not his character. He always projects the very calm, the very rational, and forward-thinking approach, but there might be a time and place for this. There's coaches that use this as a tactic on a daily, almost hourly basis, and it's completely ridiculous at that point. But in this case, it might be a good thing for the Tampa Bay Lightning. When you don't get mad and agitated and scream and yell and curse, or all of the above, and you do it, it gets people's attention. If it's a rare occurrence, it gets your attention. It snaps you to attention. I know this from personal experience because I rarely lose my temper. I rarely scream and yell. But when I do, it gets people's attention. And I've had them tell me so afterwards. I was like, where did that come from? That's not you. I know, I got your attention, didn't I? Yes, that was exactly what I was hoping to do. Maybe this is the time that Coop needs to go off on his team. I'm not usually one to condone this sort of thing or encourage it. I think it's a tactic that's used far too often. But maybe this is the time for it. After a performance like that in game number 1 against the Washington Capitals, maybe that's the time. At Hockey Unfiltered, at Todd Lewis Sports, the Twitter and Instagram handle. Still looking for your HU Dog of the Day nominations. Hashtag is HU Dog of the Day. Send them to us via Twitter, via Instagram. We like to honor and recognize great dogs. Send us a photo, tell us your name, tell us your dog's name, and use the hashtag HU Dog of the Day. We pick a winner every Saturday. Lots to get into today. Jim Diamond will join us. We'll talk about the Predators and what happened there. Joe Smith from The Athletic covering the Lightning will be with us. And Chris Peters from ESPN.com also coming up on the program. Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis, back with more after the break.
Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis sends you to the biggest events at the best prices. This year, we've partnered with Seat Giant to give you special deals on tickets to NHL games, concerts, or other events. Simply go to SeatGiant.com, find the tickets you want. When you check out, use the promo code TODD for a special discount. That's promo code TODD for a special discount. Start saving with SeatGiant.com on your next purchase. Get your business started getting more leads. 1-844-SEO-LEAD. The number to call if you want more online leads for your business is 1-844-SEO-LEAD. Search engine optimization can be the difference between success and failure. It's no coincidence which businesses are listed first in Google searches. Call 1-844-SEO-LEAD. Now it's even easier to nominate your dog as the Hockey Unfiltered Dog of the Day. We do it every Saturday. Send us a photo on Twitter or now on Instagram with the hashtag HU Dog of the Day. We choose a winner every Saturday. That's simple. Now on Instagram or Twitter, send us the photo using the hashtag HU Dog of the Day, and your dog could be the one added to our gallery on the website and Facebook page. It's the Hockey Unfiltered Dog of the Day every Saturday. Cutting-edge design for manufacturing, Nova Product Design. Industrial design, mechanical engineering and design. Nova Product Design provides experienced design for parts and assemblies, manufacturing, assembly, and serviceability. From plastic parts to sheet metal forming, mold and tool design, injection molding, and more. Nova Product Design. Visit novaproductdesign.com to learn more. So you had to get groceries, take your daughter to dance class, and a pipe burst in the kitchen. You missed Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis. No problem. All of our shows are available as a podcast right after the show airs, so you can listen when life gets in the way of hearing us live. Subscribe through iTunes and get alerts as soon as the podcast is available, or go to our website, hockeyunfiltered.com, and listen. Plus, check out the other cool stuff. The Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis podcast. Subscribe now through iTunes.
Saturday edition of Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis continues. A busy program ahead. Jim Diamond will join us from AP and Rinkside Report. We will dissect what happened and what went wrong with the Nashville Predators. Joe Smith coming up as well from The Athletic in Tampa Bay. We'll talk about what happened and what went wrong with the Tampa Bay Lightning in game number 1 against the Washington Capitals. I don't know. I was really disappointed. It was unexpected to me what we saw on Friday night with the Capitals owning the Tampa Bay Lightning in that game. I really did not expect to see that with game number 1 taking place. But the Caps have a 1-0 lead. Game number 2 of that series will take place on Sunday. Game number 1 is Saturday evening, this evening, between the Jets and the Vegas Golden Knights. Others whose seasons have ended are already looking ahead to the NHL Combine, the NHL Draft, and plotting their strategy to get themselves back into the playoffs to compete for the Stanley Cup next season. Chris Peters covers the NHL, NHL prospects, and more for ESPN.com. You can follow him on Twitter at Chris M. Peters, and he joins us now. Chris, good to have you back, and I guess we're only a couple weeks away from the NHL Combine, so I guess there's a lot of focus by teams on that now and prospective draft choices that they'll be looking at.
Yeah, it's that time of year. I mean, I think a lot of teams have had that chance to really focus on the draft now, and a lot of fan bases have already moved on, so it's always good. It's a good time of year for me and the work that I do to do the best that I can to inform folks what to expect. And I think, coming into the Combine, a lot of things kind of up in the air. Obviously Rasmus Dahlin, everybody expects him to go number 1. But, after that, there's plenty of debate, and I think teams are going to start trying to separate guys out here in the next couple of weeks. And really, once they get to that Combine, I think, the interview portion is probably more important than the testing portion. When these teams are really trying to differentiate between players. But it's always interesting to see how teams and players perform in those kind of things to do that last little chance to impress people before they actually get selected.
Have you seen cases where a performance at the Combine has surprised a team enough that, you know what, we really need to rethink our strategy with this player? We've got to rate him significantly higher, or I guess maybe significantly lower than we had originally anticipated. I find that difficult to understand, because can't you train players? Can't you get them into shape if they're not in shape? And can't you move past that? Is it a bigger deal than I'm thinking?
I can't think of any specific instances where a player, I know that they exist. I can't think of one off the top of my head of where a player really either, shot his draft stock or made his draft stock at the Combine. I think what it comes down to is, when the teams are the doctors are looking at players, and I think teams even have a chance to have their own team physicians look at players during that portion and kind of have an opportunity to say, okay, well, not only is this kid this strong now, here's how much stronger we think he can get, here's what his frame can support, like things like that. It even goes that deep. So if we're getting down to the nitty gritty at that point. But I think that the interview portion is really where teams that's where a player can make or break himself a little bit. I think the most skilled players are not going to have much of a problem. And also I think a lot of teams understand that these kids are, in 17, 18, 19 years old, and they're going to mature over time. But certainly there have been plenty of stories about bad interviews where a team was like, this kid, it's just not a fit. And I think that's one of the more important things. Whereas the physical training aspect, Casey Middlestat couldn't really do a pull-up, and that doesn't really matter that much, So he's still an incredibly skilled player. Same with Sam Bennett, where that's, if that's going to shoot your draft stock at that point, then I think that the scouts are putting too much stock into it. But usually, the best players, it's going to be what happened on the ice, and it's just a matter of kind of getting to know the player a little bit better at the Combine.
Yeah, you're right. You hear a lot more stories about players or teams that were impressed by players in the interview process than you do with the pull up. You're right, is a great one that we've heard a couple times. The bike and barf too, where it's he was only able to go for 20 seconds before the test crapped out on him. But it is interesting, and it's curious the way some teams approach those interviews. Some have real blue sky, wide open questions that they ask players, and some are more business-like and team and hockey oriented in their approach, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, they're trying to get a feel for usually, how the player reacts under pressure, his maturity level. Sometimes they'll take a bit more of a kind of a cold approach and push some buttons a little bit. But I think more often than not, they're trying to get a feel for what the player thinks of himself. And one of the things I've been talking with scouts a lot more with, and not just scouts, but coaches and player development people, is the importance of a player being aware of himself and aware of what he needs to work on and aware of what kind of player he can be. You certainly want to see confidence, but I think more than anything, you want to see a player that really knows what he needs to do to get to the next level. And that's one of those things where a player can really impress a staff, where they understand what they are, and they don't have either an inflated or deflated opinion of himself. I think you want a confident kid, but also a player that has a full understanding of his strengths and his limitations. And that's one of those aspects that I find most fascinating about. And when I speak to players, when I interview a lot of the prospects over the course of the year, that's always one of the things that I'm looking to find out as well. Is this player going to understand what he needs to do to get to the next level? And I think more and more players are getting so much better at that because they're getting so much feedback from coaches and other people and outside influences, and not just their parents, which could be a bad influence on a player or their agents. It's coming from all different angles, and the players that understand that and kind of break that information down for themselves are really going to have an opportunity to improve and develop more along the way. I think it's one of the most underrated things that you can find out about a guy is how self-aware is he.
Chris Peters is our guest from ESPN.com. He covers the draft and prospects and much more for ESPN and the National Hockey League. At Chris M. Peters is how you follow him on Twitter. And this is the draft and the combine is a really important time for teams because there are teams that aren't in the postseason. Some didn't make the postseason. Some have since been eliminated. But there's a number of teams that have a significant number of picks and a lot of work to do on their teams for next season. Like a team like the New York Rangers, who went through the formal process of saying, "Yep, we're not going to be good enough. We've got a lot of work to do." They shipped out some veterans, got more draft picks. They have a lot of work to do in advance of Dallas in June when they start using those picks.
Absolutely. I mean, I think this is maybe one of the most important drafts for the New York Rangers in a long, long time. And we were thinking about all the years that they just gave away first-round picks, like in trades, to be contender, which at the time it made sense. They gave themselves opportunities to compete and contend for Stanley Cups. Ultimately not winning one, that's the disappointing part. But, you have to take some of those risks. Well, now they've got 3 first-round draft picks. They've got 7 picks in the top 90, I believe. So that's where you can see a significant boost to their prospect system. They already started it last year with Filipino and Elias Anderson, bringing those 2 guys in the first round. And I think they were great picks, guys that are going to help them long term. But now this year you've got a top 10 pick. And I think that the top 10 in the draft is in its own tier. Obviously, Dahlin kind of is out by himself, and then it's Svechnikov, Zadina, Tkachuk. I mean, some people might throw some of the defensemen in that mix as well, and Oliver Wahlstrom. So, those are the kind of tiers. But within that top 10, you're going to have an opportunity to grab an impact prospect. And I think, the Rangers have some needs on defense. There are going to be some really good players there. At number 9, I think it could be any one of the number of, it could be Evan Bouchard, Noah Dobson, Quinn Hughes, Adam Boqvist, whichever one of those guys doesn't go in the top 8 will be there available to him. It could be Jesperi Kotkaniemi, who I think has established himself as a number 1 center in this draft over some of the guys like Joe Veleno and Barrett Hayton, who have been highly ranked. So there are a lot of options available. But the best thing for the Rangers is that this is a year where there's a particularly deep draft. So they've got two late first rounders, which are going to be pretty high quality players. And then they've got their second round picks and third round picks that could also, make a significant impact on their prospect system. So that's where I think that this is a great position for them to be in. They also have the opportunity to package those picks for trades. And I think that the value of those picks, even those late first rounders, are pretty valuable, even their second rounders, because there are so many good players in this draft. It's a deep first couple of rounds. I think the top 90, top 100 is really good this year. It's especially good. It's much better than last season. And I think you've got an opportunity, if you're New York, to make a significant dent in your future here, and maybe find a guy in that top 10 pick that could help you within the next 2 years.
And with it being a deep draft, it's different than in previous years where you've had an Austin Matthews or a Connor McDavid, but you don't have the generational superstar kind of thing. But you do have a lot of good players who, with time and teaching and development, will be able to mold into NHLers. And this is also going to be helpful, I think, for a team like Detroit, who I think has a lot of work to do. I'm not sure they all necessarily realize how much work they have to do, but it's another team that could benefit from this kind of draft.
Yeah, and there's another team with 7 high draft picks that are going to be picks that could help them go a long way. They're going to have so many options available to them in that with that number 6 pick that they have, and I think that's where you're going to find a player that potential. It probably doesn't play next year, but would be probably 2 years down the road. I mentioned a lot of those guys already with that 9th pick. So who do you pick there? It could be Adam Boquist. It could be Quinn Hughes. I think that they're going to look defense with that pick just because this is such a deep draft for defense. And that's a group too where I think that they're starting to realize a bit more that the position that they're in. They don't want to say that they're a rebuilding team, but at the same time they're a rebuilding team. It's essentially where they're at. They need to get younger. They need to. This is a crucial draft for Ken Holland. His job is secure. He can do a lot of different things, but this is the draft that could set them up for the next 5 to 10 years based on what's going to be available to them. And then next year, I think there's still a good chance that they have a high pick again next year. So they're in a position over these next 2 years to maybe shorten that timeline of a rebuild, but we've seen how these things can go. They obviously don't want to just continually shed players, but at the same time, you kind of got to hit the reset button a little bit. And I think that with this draft this year, there's a chance to make a huge impact just because of the sheer number of picks that they have. I think they've got 4 in the top 36. So 4 in the top 36, that's going to, in this year, those late, early second round picks are quality of like a first rounder in many other drafts. So now you've got a real opportunity. That's why I think this is such a fascinating year for Detroit. And I wrote about both these teams on ESPN Insider, just kind of plotted out, here are some of the options that'll be available to them in these ranges. And even as I was putting that together, I was like, gosh, they're going to have a chance to really improve their prospect system, which I think is pretty shallow right now. They don't have a ton of help coming in the next couple of years. They've had some guys that haven't really panned out. So there's some guys that are still kind of on the way. Michael Rasmussen, who's having had a great year in the WHL, and Dennis Cholowski as well. Those are guys that could help them in the not so distant future. But you got to get some guys right now that are going to be impact prospects and impact NHL players, and I think they can do that this year.
Chris Peters from ESPN.com. Follow him on Twitter at Chris M. Peters, especially during this time of year. He's going to be busy and he'll have all the info. Chris, this was really good stuff. I enjoyed it. I'm sure we'll be talking to you lots now between the rest of the playoffs and the end of the season and the NHL entry draft. I look forward to it. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Todd.
Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis continues. Lots more to get to as we get you set for game number 1 in the Western Conference Final later on this evening. Vegas in Winnipeg. We'll continue to review what took place in game number 1. Still a head shaker for me. I was really surprised. Tampa going down 4-2 to the Washington Capitals. The score is flattering, by the way. At Hockey Unfiltered, at Todd Lewis Sports, our Twitter and Instagram handle. Still looking for your Dog of the Day nominations. Hashtag is HU Dog of the Day. Much more to come when Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis continues right after the break.
Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis sends you to the biggest events at the best prices. This year, we've partnered with Seat Giant to give you special deals on tickets to NHL games, concerts, or other events. Simply go to SeatGiant.com, find the tickets you want. When you check out, use the promo code TODD for a special discount. That's promo code TODD for a special discount. Start saving with SeatGiant.com on your next purchase. Get your business started getting more leads. 1-844-SEO-LEAD. The number to call if you want more online leads for your business is 1-844-SEO-LEAD. Search engine optimization can be the difference between success and failure. It's no coincidence which businesses are listed first in Google searches. Call 1-844-SEO-LEAD. Now it's even easier to nominate your dog as the Hockey Unfiltered Dog of the Day. We do it every Saturday. Send us a photo on Twitter or now on Instagram with the hashtag HU Dog of the Day. We choose a winner every Saturday. That's simple. Now on Instagram or Twitter, send us the photo using the hashtag HU Dog of the Day, and your dog could be the one added to our gallery on the website and Facebook page. It's the Hockey Unfiltered Dog of the Day every Saturday. Cutting-edge design for manufacturing. Nova Product Design. Industrial design. Mechanical engineering and design. Nova Product Design provides experienced design for parts and assemblies, manufacturing, assembly, and serviceability. From plastic parts to sheet metal forming, mold and tool design, injection molding, and more. Nova Product Design. Visit novaproductdesign.com to learn more. So you had to get groceries, take your daughter to dance class, and a pipe burst in the kitchen. You missed Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis. No problem. All of our shows are available as a podcast right after the show airs, so you can listen when life gets in the way of hearing us live. Subscribe through iTunes and get alerts as soon as the podcast is available, or go to our website, hockeyunfiltered.com, and listen. Plus, check out the other cool stuff. The Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis podcast. Subscribe now through iTunes.
Saturday edition of Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis continues. A busy hour number 2. Had to do a little guest juggling because of media availability with the teams. The Caps have changed theirs, and we want to give Isabelle Khurshudyan an opportunity to do her work. She's going to join us in the next hour, and we'll talk a little bit about the Washington Capitals. Joe Smith from The Athletic in Tampa Bay will also join us right off the top of hour number 2 and give us a little more on the Tampa Bay Lightning and what can only be optimistically referred to as less than their best effort in game number 1 against the Washington Capitals. 4-2 was the final. Caps come out on top. They take a 1-0 series lead. They get another road victory. 6-1 on the road for the Washington Capitals. My goodness. And it's surprising. It's surprising to me. Also coming up in our next hour, Jim Diamond, who covers the Nashville Predators for the Associated Press and Rinkside Report. We'll kind of go over and dissect what took place in the Preds series with the Winnipeg Jets and where does Nashville go from here? I mean, it was the series that a lot of us were looking forward to. We were excited about. Nashville Predators won the President's Trophy, scored an awful lot of points in the standings. The Winnipeg Jets, though, were right there, only a few points behind them. So you can't really say that this series was an upset because they were so close. But there's something that we'll talk to Jim about, and I'm not sure that anyone's really saying out loud yet. But if I'm thinking about the Nashville Predators and moving forward, I'm thinking an awful lot about goaltending. I mentioned it in the series early on when we were talking about Nashville and Winnipeg, when Pekka Rinne got pulled for the second time in the postseason. I said, you know, there's a little bit of worry. Worry was a strong word. I said, well, maybe a little bit of concern. And then we saw what happened on Thursday night in game number 7, and Pekka Rinne was out after 2 bad goals. Good move by Peter Laviolette to do it. It was the right call. You coach differently in a best-of-7 series than you do in the regular season. And during the game, everybody said all the right things. Pekka Rinne's our guy. He was the reason that we had such a good regular season. This is the reason we were so successful. It's why we've been able to get wins. They're still saying it a day or two after. And that's true. But you can't have these kinds of meltdowns in the postseason if you're going to be a serious contender for the Stanley Cup. Nashville seemed to do everything right during the regular season. They acquired more talent, brought in Kyle Turris, made the big deal, gave up Samuel Girard to do it, but brought in another center, thought that was going to help them. They were doing all the right things, but you can't have a goaltender not play well in the playoffs and be successful. If I'm Nashville, I'm exploring my options, and I'm thinking about what I do next season. Pekka Rinne is going to come back. He's in the final year of a multi-year contract that's going to pay him $7 million next year. Jussi Saros needs to be signed to a new contract, so there's two, but I'm looking at other options if I'm the Nashville Predators. Not saying I'm blowing things up, but I'm looking around because I've seen enough out of Pekka Rinne in the last couple of years that I have doubts about whether or not he will be able to lead the team to what their goal is, and that's a Stanley Cup championship. Thought they had made all the right moves this year to give themselves the opportunity. It came up short. Also heard a really interesting thing from Winnipeg general manager Kevin Cheveldayoff on Friday. Mentioned something in an interview that there were a lot of 8:30 p.m. starts in their series with Nashville because they're both in the same time zone, and to help with TV and to prevent overlap, they pushed the start time back to 8:30, which means puck drop is around 8:45 or so. And Cheveldayoff suggested this might have been a reason or one of the contributing factors to why there were so many road victories in this series. He felt that after discussing it with his staff and people in his team office, that it might be easier for the visiting team to adapt to a later start time. I thought that was really interesting. That easier for the visiting team to adapt because you're on the road, you're not at home, you don't have any of those obligations and things to worry about. All your focus is on hockey, and you can plan your day around that. We didn't expect, or I didn't get the kind of hockey throughout much of the series that I was expecting. I don't know if it was disappointing, but it like everything else in this postseason, it wasn't really what I was expecting. It wasn't the offensive talent of both teams trading chances and going back and forth all through the 7-game series. There were little flashes of it. There were little moments of it. But Nashville certainly was doing their best to try to avoid that type of game because I don't think they felt they could compete with Winnipeg in simply playing an offensive game back and forth. They had to focus on the defense and preventing offense while hoping to take advantage of a couple of opportunities. Also, in the final game of that series, game number 7 between the Nashville Predators and the Winnipeg Jets, little disappointed that NBC decided to throw Pierre Maguire and Eddie Olczyk into that game, and they kicked out AJ Malesko and Brian Boucher. Kenny Albert was also in doing play-by-play instead of Chris Cuthbert. Those three, Cuthbert, Malesko, and Boucher, had covered the whole series, and I think it was wrong to parachute Pierre and Eddie in there for the last game. When you cover an entire series from start to the finish, you learn things, you pick up things that announcers and commentators won't see because they haven't been around the series for its entirety. If they're dropped in at the last minute, they're going to have stats and information and stuff, but they won't see a lot of the things that AJ Malesko and Brian Boucher and Kenny Albert Chris Cuthbert would have firsthand. I think that was a mistake by NBC. At Hockey Unfiltered, at Todd Lewis Sports, our Twitter and Instagram handles. That's where we're looking for your HU Dog of the Day nominations. That's the hashtag HU Dog of the Day. Hour number 2 of the program coming up right after the break.
Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis sends you to the biggest events at the best prices. This year, we've partnered with Seat Giant to give you special deals on tickets to NHL games, concerts, or other events. Simply go to SeatGiant.com, find the tickets you want. When you check out, use the promo code TODD for a special discount. That's promo code TODD for a special discount. Start saving with SeatGiant.com on your next purchase. Get your business started getting more leads. 1-844-SEO-LEAD. The number to call if you want more online leads for your business is 1-844-SEO-LEAD. Search engine optimization can be the difference between success and failure. It's no coincidence which businesses are listed first in Google searches. Call 1-844-SEO-LEAD. Now it's even easier to nominate your dog as the Hockey Unfiltered Dog of the Day. We do it every Saturday. Send us a photo on Twitter or now on Instagram with the hashtag HU Dog of the Day. We choose a winner every Saturday. That's simple. Now on Instagram or Twitter, send us the photo using the hashtag HU Dog of the Day, and your dog could be the one added to our gallery on the website and Facebook page. It's the Hockey Unfiltered Dog of the Day every Saturday. Cutting-edge design for manufacturing. Nova Product Design. Industrial design. Mechanical engineering and design. Nova Product Design provides experienced design for parts and assemblies, manufacturing, assembly, and serviceability. From plastic parts to sheet metal forming, mold and tool design, injection molding, and more. Nova Product Design. Visit novaproductdesign.com to learn more. So you had to get groceries, take your daughter to dance class, and a pipe burst in the kitchen. You missed Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis. No problem. All of our shows are available as a podcast right after the show airs, so you can listen when life gets in the way of hearing us live. Subscribe through iTunes and get alerts as soon as the podcast is available, or go to our website, hockeyunfiltered.com, and listen. Plus, check out the other cool stuff. The Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis podcast. Subscribe now through iTunes.
This is Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis.
Busy hour number 2. We got wall-to-wall guests going through for the first few segments after a little bit of juggling. Joe Smith from The Athletic will join us in seconds. We'll talk about the Tampa Bay Lightning and what was that on Friday night. Also coming up this hour, Jim Diamond from the Associated Press and Rinkside Report covers the Nashville Predators. We'll dive a little deeper into what happened with the Preds in the last round against the Winnipeg Jets and what lies ahead for Nashville, because there's a few questions about this team moving forward. Isabelle Khurshudyan covers the Washington Capitals for the Washington Post. She will also join us this hour. It is busy. We'll get you set for game number 1 in the Western Conference Final as well between the Vegas Golden Knights and the Winnipeg Jets. Yes, there will be a flyover prior to puck drop and the start of the game shortly after 7 p.m. Eastern Time. At Hockey Unfiltered, at Todd Lewis Sports, our Twitter and Instagram handles. That's where we're looking for your Dog of the Day nominations. We do it every Saturday. We like to recognize and honor great dogs, and we like cool dog photos too. So like the one of Bark Andre Fleury that was making the rounds a couple of days ago. Send them to us via Twitter, via Instagram, or email. Put them up on our Facebook page as well. Use the hashtag HU Dog of the Day. We'll select a winner and put the photo up on our website and into our gallery. Hashtag is HU Dog of the Day. Great photo I just saw on Twitter of Jarvis, who is, as his owner, Bruno, or good Twitter handle, by the way, at Hockey Jerk, says he's staring out over his kingdom. That's nice. I like that. It's a good photo. There's an awful lot of snow at this time of year, though, so I'm hoping that this is not a photo that you just snapped earlier today to send in for the Hockey Unfiltered Dog of the Day. Looking forward to an action-packed game tonight between the Jets and the Vegas Golden Knights. I didn't find the first game of the Eastern Conference Final to be action-packed. In fact, it was a lot of unexpected for me. Joe Smith covers the Tampa Bay Lightning for The Athletic. At Joe Smith TB is how you follow him on Twitter. Joe, after a Game 1 loss, I know it's happened to the Lightning before, but I think the circumstances are different. On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the most worried, how worried are you about the Lightning?
Well, I think if you're a Lightning fan, at least be a little bit over 5. It's Game 1, so it's not the end of the world. There's the best of 7 series, and there's a long way to go. But I think it was more so like how it happened. Like if the Boston lost in Game 1, the Lightning outchanced them. They doubled the shot attempt total. They had some good plays. They weren't maybe quite as intense as they needed to be, but they weren't completely out of that game. It was like 3-2 at some point. This one, there really was no chance last night. It was close for a while, but Lightning wasn't skating. They were too sloppy, and they were losing their own end, which was a far cry from where they were last series. And there was such a shutdown, kind of a surgical performance there. So it was more so the concern level, if you're a Lightning fan or follower, is kind of how that happened in Game 1 of a conference final and against a team that they knew would be revved up and ready to go. So I think Game 2 will be a really good, gut check for this team that's responded all year. So I think they will again. But obviously that the process and how it happened was probably more concerning for fans than it was the actual loss itself.
Yeah, and that's kind of along the way I'm thinking too. The immediate comparison is back to the Boston series where they lost Game 1, but the circumstances are quite different. They had the time off. Boston didn't. I didn't think having 4 days off versus 5 days off was a big deal with Washington and Tampa, and the other area that was key is, and everybody knew it going in, you can't put Washington on the power play because your penalty kill hasn't been very good, and they did both of those things.
Yeah, Dan Girardi, what's the key to stopping the Capitals power play? Goes, stay out of the box. There's, you give those guys a number of chances, they're going to score. I don't care how good your penalty kill is. It's just they got to find a way, and especially some of the careless penalties, like too many men on the ice penalty, a holding penalty, or like a hooking penalty in the offensive zone. If you're going to get a penalty, and you're not going to be able to avoid all penalties in a playoff game, but you can't be giving these guys that many opportunities. And it's a tough situation because some of those power play goals are very momentum swinging goals. That goal by Ovechkin was 5 seconds left in the first period was really a deflating and devastating blow there to be down 2-0 going into mission. It was a 1-0, even if they didn't play as well.
Well, yeah, and it could have just as easily been a 1-1 game if not for the mental mistake. And I guess that's part of it too, is that they did not seem to be mentally engaged in the game against Washington on Friday night. The mistake with the too many men on the ice penalty, the mistake in that face-off in the final few seconds of the first period. It's, you understand what the circumstances are, and even if your penalty kill is not that good, I know this is easier said than done, but you can't have the draw one cleanly and the pass across get to Alex Ovechkin so that he can hammer it past your goaltender. Those kind of things can't happen if you expect to win a series.
Exactly. It's a set play. They saw it on tape all week, and the play is going to Ovechkin if they win the face-off. Now, obviously, Oshie wins the face-off cleanly against the rookie Sorelli, who's been one of the better face-off guys, but there's no, it's not just the centerman, it's the guys on the left and the right, and McDonough wasn't there to engage with Kuznetsov and whatever, so he got it cleanly there, an easy pass, and Killorn, obviously it's a quick bang-bang play, so it's hard to get out there, and Eller is trying to give us a little bit of pick there in the middle, but the moment that Kuznetsov gets that puck, you've got to start like heck right into Ovechkin's shooting lane and put yourself in front of it. So I don't know. It's just, that's one of those things where they were a split second or a second off, and that's all you need to be off in order to lose a game or lose momentum in a series.
Joe Smith is with us, covers the Tampa Bay Lightning for The Athletic in Tampa Bay. At Joe Smith TB is how you follow him on Twitter. Tampa loses 4-2 on Friday night to the Washington Capitals. Game number 2 of the Eastern Conference Final goes on Sunday night. Now, the other question I have after this game, and I'm wondering about, is Tampa a self-leveling team in that they'll get the balance back, they'll snap themselves into an awareness that we expect for game number 2, or does John Cooper have to, in a sense, intervene and help snap his team back into focus?
Well, I think they're a very good, accountable team in their own right. They have a lot of good leaders in this room, and guys have been there before, the Kunitzes and the Girardis and Callahans and such, and they've typically all year and last year, when they have a bad performance, they own it. They know it, and they know they come out the next game with a really good response. Now, you like to think that they could do that in game one as opposed to waiting for game two. But I'm sure it'll be a mixture of the guys in the room saying a few words or just knowing they have a lot more left in them. And a coaching staff, I'm sure today at practice, like put them through a training camp like practice like they did after game one against Boston, that really kind of get their mental and their physical edge back a little bit. But there's no, if you need motivation at this time of year and down 1-0 in the conference final, not playing the right game. So I think they'll be ready to go on Sunday and for a very big game.
Yeah, and it's not so much maybe the motivation, I'm not sure is the right word, but it's just they need an attention getter, and it's John Cooper is not the scream and yell, kick over garbage cans type of coach, but I'm wondering if something along those lines to refocus this team, maybe it was the hard practice as you talked about this morning that will help get their attention back.
Yeah, they'll go through a really hard workout today. I can guarantee you that. But I think the attention getter was the humbling loss last night. They knew the Capitals were a better team last night, and they took it to them. And that's, if you're a competitor and you're an NHL player, and another team comes into your home ice and takes it to you, and BC takes away a home ice advantage, I think that's going to be attention getting as enough as it is. So the guys know it. I mean, they said it after the game, and you can tell it. Pick them off a bed, and they own the fact that they were maybe not ready to play, but they didn't bring that same edge and emotion that they had in that Boston series that carried them through. So I think we'll find out a lot about the team and where they're at Sunday at 8 o'clock.
Yeah, that's probably true. The other thing too that often happens when a team loses or has a difficult loss and doesn't seem to be engaged is sometimes lines get shaken up or players move in and out of the lineup. But I'm not sure I'm expecting much of that from the Lightning. They seem to have a winning recipe through the first couple of rounds of the playoffs. There were little situations that warranted juggling, but I don't see that going forward either.
No, I mean they got the lineup that's got them to win. They won the first 2 series in 10 games. This is a group that had some success, and they beat a really good Boston team in 4 straight. So I don't think they're going to reinvent the wheel here. No one really is going to come in the lineup, I think, and change anything. It's just more so of getting the guys that were in this lineup before that to produce at the level that they're capable of. So, I mean, other than maybe switching some power play or kind of thing like that, I don't think they're going to change their reinvent the wheel here with their line.
No, that makes sense. Okay, so because I don't want to be all negative, I want to try and end on a positive. Is there something positive that can be taken out of the Game 1 loss against the Washington Capitals? I'm really not sure, and I've been trying to look for something.
Well, I mean, obviously you could say that the push in the third period and the fact they did that, although as they said, it's easier to push. The other team doesn't really care as much when they're up 4-0. The Capitals didn't care if they won 4-0 or 4-2. They're kind of sitting back and chipping in and chipping it out. But, I think the positive, if you take anything of it, is just knowing kind of the reputation and the character of the team that the fans have watched all year, that they know they're a typical team that can respond to these type of things and know that they have better in them and expect better on Sunday. So that would be I guess you take not really part of the game per se, but more so just knowing the team that they've watched all year.
Okay, so don't panic is what you're telling me. Okay, fair enough. Joe Smith from the Athletic in Tampa Bay at Joe Smith TV is how you follow him on Twitter. Thanks for talking me in off the ledge, Joe. I appreciate it.
Hey, no problem. Anytime. Good talking to you.
You too, Joe Smith from the Athletic in Tampa Bay. I don't know. Maybe I'm expressing a level of concern that's at DEFCON 2 when it should only be at DEFCON 3. I don't know, but I did not like a number of things that I saw in the game on Friday night by the Tampa Bay Lightning and the Washington Capitals. I think Washington played a very good game based on the lineup that they had available to them. Nick Backstrom was not available again. He's still out of the lineup. He's still listed as day-to-day. The latest from Barry Trotz is that he's hoping to play in the series. We'll get more on that coming up later on this hour from Isabelle Khurshudyan, who covers the Caps for the Washington Post. But this was not what I expected from the Tampa Bay Lightning, especially knowing that this was the kind of thing that that happened in the second round series, that a few days off, and they come out and everybody's just kind of there. When you only mount 2 shots in the first period, that's not good enough. When you have 8 shots in the second period after you have 2 shots in the first period, that's just not good enough. And I don't blame John Cooper for getting Andrei Vasilevsky out of there. There was no reason to keep him in any longer to endure that torture that he was subjected to last night. And my level of concern, I think, is a little bit higher. Sure, I think there will be a better effort by the Tampa Bay Lightning in game number 2 of the series on Sunday. But you've given the Washington Capitals reason, or more reason, to believe. They had a hard-fought series with Pittsburgh. They were in new territory, and it was like, okay, let's see what happens. And they had their plan to come out and play a straightforward, disciplined game. And you didn't do anything to disrupt them from that, even though there was a great opportunity to do so. And that's a concern to me for the Lightning. At Hockey Unfiltered, at Todd Lewis Sports, our Twitter and Instagram handles, looking for your Dog of the Day nominations. Hashtag HU Dog of the Day. We select a winner. We like to honor and recognize great dogs. Send us a photo with your name, your dog's name. If there's a nice story of how you two came together, we like to hear that too. We'll pick a winner and post the photo in our gallery up on our website and on our Facebook page as well. At Hockey Unfiltered, at Todd Lewis Sports. Coming up, Jim Diamond with a dissection of what happened to the Nashville Predators, and as mentioned, Isabelle Khurshudyan with the Caps perspective on game number 1. Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis, back with more after the break.
Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis sends you to the biggest events at the best prices. This year, we've partnered with Seat Giant to give you special deals on tickets to NHL games, concerts, or other events. Simply go to SeatGiant.com, find the tickets you want. When you check out, use the promo code TODD for a special discount. That's promo code TODD for a special discount. Start saving with SeatGiant.com on your next purchase. Get your business started getting more leads. 1-844-SEO-LEAD. The number to call if you want more online leads for your business is 1-844-SEO-LEAD. Search engine optimization can be the difference between success and failure. It's no coincidence which businesses are listed first in Google searches. Call 1-844-SEO-LEAD. Now it's even easier to nominate your dog as the Hockey Unfiltered Dog of the Day. We do it every Saturday. Send us a photo on Twitter or now on Instagram with the hashtag HU Dog of the Day. We choose a winner every Saturday. That's simple. Now on Instagram or Twitter, send us the photo using the hashtag HU Dog of the Day, and your dog could be the one added to our gallery on the website and Facebook page. It's the Hockey Unfiltered Dog of the Day every Saturday. Cutting-edge design for manufacturing, Nova Product Design. Industrial design, mechanical engineering and design. Nova Product Design provides experienced design for parts and assemblies, manufacturing, assembly, and serviceability. From plastic parts to sheet metal forming, mold and tool design, injection molding, and more. Nova Product Design. Visit novaproductdesign.com to learn more. So you had to get groceries, take your daughter to dance class, and a pipe burst in the kitchen. You missed Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis. No problem. All of our shows are available as a podcast right after the show airs, so you can listen when life gets in the way of hearing us live. Subscribe through iTunes and get alerts as soon as the podcast is available, or go to our website, hockeyunfiltered.com, and listen. Plus, check out the other cool stuff. The Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis podcast. Subscribe now through iTunes.
It's the Saturday edition of Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis, here every Saturday and Sunday, live at 11 Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific at hockeyunfiltered.com. We're streaming live on the Hockey Unfiltered app, all powered by Primetime Radio. Also coming up on the program before the hour is done, Isabelle Khurshudyan from the Washington Post covering the Caps. She'll join us with more on the Caps' victory in game number 1 of the Eastern Conference Final against the Tampa Bay Lightning. We'll get you set for game 1 of the Western Final with the Winnipeg Jets hosting the Nashville the Vegas Golden Knights after defeating the Nashville Predators in game number 7. Jim Diamond covers the Preds for the Associated Press for Rinkside Report. You can follow him on Twitter at Diamond Hockey. And Jim joins us now. I suspect that even though it's been a couple of days, Jim, there's still a lot of questions being asked and searching for answers going on within the Preds and their organization.
Yeah, there's no question about it. I think after last season's run to the final and winning the President's Trophy this season, I think everyone almost assumed that they would repeat that final appearance, and the Winnipeg Jets had a different idea, and now the Predators are done.
And I guess it's so stunning because of the way the way it took place. Pekka Rinne getting pulled in so many games, losing on home ice, something that was a rarity during the regular season. I don't know that you can pick out one or two things that immediately come to mind. I think there's probably a deeper dissection that needs to happen with this.
Sure. I mean, it was just a weird series in general with the road team winning 5 of the 7 games. I didn't do any deep research into that, but I'm fairly certain that doesn't happen altogether too often, even though home ice has seemingly been overrated the last couple of years. But everyone knows Pekka Rinne is getting a little bit older and is coming into the last year of his contract this year, and it's just he was so good in the regular season. Will likely win the Vezina Trophy this year, and just to see, he wasn't terrible in the first 6 games of the series. The team wasn't great in front of him for the most part, but he just let in two bad goals in the first half of the first period Thursday night, and that really doomed the team in Game 7.
Yeah, and I was absolutely the right call by Peter Laviolette to get him out of there. I mean, if you want any chance of getting back in that game to have a chance at the series, you've got to make that call at that point, and that was the right thing. But I'm wondering, and I expressed this earlier in the series, but I was a little concerned about Pekka Rinne when he got pulled earlier in the series, and we saw him lose his mental composure in the game in Winnipeg, where he tried to chop and lumberjack Adam Lowry late in the game. There was a level of frustration that we're not used to seeing, and it was out of character. And I think there's some choices and decisions that Nashville's going to have to make next year with goaltending and how they want to proceed in the future.
There's no question about it. He's one of the most even-keeled people I've ever met, inside or outside of hockey. So to see him, have some frustrations bubble over onto the ice was like you said, kind of surprising. But yeah, I think one good thing working in the Predators' favor and UC Saros are extremely good together. Not a huge rivalry between the two by any means. They're both Finns, and Saros lived with Rinne, early on in his career in Nashville. So I think it will be a fairly easy transition. Now, how Pekka handles that, if it is deemed that he does kind of slide into the background, take on a lesser role. He's been the man for so long in Nashville that it may be an adjustment for him. But with 1 year left on his deal, the Predators do need to start answering those questions and looking to see what the future of their goaltending is, sooner rather than later. And they have a little bit longer of an off season here now to try and piece together what they think is going to happen.
Are you confident that Saros can be a number 1 goaltender, whether he takes over completely next year or the season after or whatever?
I think he can. He's been really good. I think we saw it last season when the Predators made a decided effort to try and reduce Rinne's workload in the regular season, and I think that paid off in dividends for them in the playoffs, where he wasn't fatigued, because back in the Barry Trotz days, he used to say they were riding Rinne like Seabiscuit. And they did, just with his numbers of games, and then he didn't seem to have the juice left in the playoffs. But Saros, despite not being 6'6" or 6'5" like the Predators seem to have liked the last couple of years, he's done everything well, and they've given him some tough assignments, and he's responded. So I think he can. It's just seeing him do it over a larger number of games, a bigger sample size, which could be the question, because we haven't seen him do it yet.
Jim Diamond is with us, covers the Nashville Predators for Associated Press and for Rinkside Report. At Diamond Hockey is how you follow him on Twitter. Looking back on the Preds, a loss in the series to the Winnipeg Jets in 7 games. There were some other questions about for the Predators and their roster moving forward as well. The second line didn't seem to have the production that they were looking for in terms of goal scoring with Kyle Turris centering that line. Even Kevin Fiala going in and out of the lineup during the series as well. That was I don't know if that was a try to get him motivated, get him in that line going, or whether that was something else that Peter Laviolette had in mind.
I think they were just looking for a way to get Scott Hartnell in the lineup, really, I guess it was game 4 when they were, facing a possible, deficit of 3-1, and Hartnell responded. But, I give Fiala a pass more than I do Turris or Smith. Fiala's, he seems like he's been around a few years. He's still 21 years old. Suffered that just catastrophic broken leg in the St. Louis series last year. I mean, I think people were wondering if the guy would ever walk again, and he was ready for training camp. So, he didn't look awful, didn't get a ton of production, but 0 goals from Kyle Turris, and Craig Smith was not as good as he was, most of the season following that Turris trade. That just seemed to reinvigorate Craig Smith, and he was fantastic almost the whole rest of the regular season. But you're right, they just didn't get it done in the postseason, and that really. I hate to say doom the team, but it sure didn't help.
Yeah, we've seen that you can only go so far if you've got one line, the big line, the top line, or whatever it is that happens to be going. There has to be support scoring throughout your lineup if you're going to go deeper into the playoffs. And the Scott Hartnell thing also leads to other questions about the roster going forward. Does he return? Would he be back with the Nashville Predators? I'm assuming that Mike Fisher retires again and he doesn't come back. Is there anything else that you see immediately happening?
I agree with you. I don't think Fisher will back. I would almost be surprised if Hartnell came back, just because they have Eeli Tolvanen waiting in the wings and need to find a spot for him. He was kind of the big news coming off the end of the KHL season, coming over here. So maybe as an extra forward, I don't know if he wants that role or not. He may not have a ton of options coming into next season, but. If he's okay with that role, I think he may be an extra forward. But the Predators carried 8 defensemen last year, or this season, and already have 7 under contract for next season. So there may be a little squeeze on the 23-man roster if they decide to sign another defenseman or decide to maybe bring Emelin back as well. But there's not a lot of open spaces with the rosters they have and the number of contracts that they have currently.
No, that was the other one. I can't imagine that Emelin makes a return to the Nashville Predators roster either. But and I was going to ask about Tolvanen too, because there's the second guessing point that we can go on and wonder maybe woulda, coulda, shoulda, what would have happened if he was inserted into the lineup, because it was offense that they maybe needed a little more of, and he probably could have provided it.
There's a chance, but taking taking a risk on an 19-year-old guy, and depending on who they took out, that's a pretty big risk for Peter Laviolette to take. But I think they were just kind of under the assumption that these guys were going to start scoring goals and making a difference, and it just didn't happen. So he did make the decision to pull Fiala out, and then eventually put him back in. But there was just, I think, just the expectation that things were going to smooth out, things were going to get better, and they would just beat Winnipeg, and it just didn't happen.
Yeah, and maybe that's part of it too. Is that I've said this is like you have to coach a 1 to 4 win series different than you coach in the regular season, and maybe you do have to make bolder moves.
For sure, and I think looking back, they can Monday morning quarterback all they want, and I think they have a long time to think about it now, and watching the conference finals when they were participants last season. But I think they're going to give a guy like Tolvanen every opportunity next season to succeed, and even in the lineup wise, he's probably a first, second line guy. So does a guy like Smith or Fiala end up being bumped down lower in the pecking order, so that Tolvanen gets his opportunity and gets his ice time that I don't want to say he's earned, but they're going to need to evaluate him properly. So I think it's not only who's on the roster, it's just where they play when they sort out the lines.
Yeah, there's going to be some interesting choices that need to be made by the Nashville Predators. Jim Diamond covering the Preds for AP and Rinkside Report. At Diamond Hockey is how you follow him on Twitter. Thanks for this, Jim. Appreciated your visits all season long, and hopefully we're having you back again soon.
All right, anytime. Good talking to you, Todd.
Thanks, Jim Diamond covering the Nashville Predators. That would have been an interesting move. Instead of, maybe in addition to Scott Hartnell going in, Eeli Tolvanen going in, he's a young player. We have seen young players, though, who have been thrust into Stanley Cup playoff games before playing in the regular season, and they have not been intimidated by the larger stage and the larger consequences of their actions potentially as they move into the Stanley Cup playoffs. Put them in a role to succeed. Give them an opportunity to succeed. And maybe that's something and a choice and a decision that needed to be made as well. Well, you can second guess this all summer long and right through to training camp next year if you want. There will be changes to the Nashville Predators roster. As mentioned, Alexei Emelin, I can't imagine that he comes back onto that roster. There's other choices to use on defense. Tolvanen will be in. Hartnell, he was a plug and play when they needed someone. He's a depth forward at best. And now if you've got Tolvanen in the lineup, maybe that gives you a little more depth, and you can have 3 lines capable of providing offense versus a top line and some secondary scoring on the second line. You're always looking for more depth, for more options, for more opportunities for players as well. And maybe that's the other part of it. The defense corps I don't know. They just did not seem to be quite themselves as well in that series. They didn't get the scoring generated from them, with the exception of PK Subban against the Winnipeg Jets as well. At Hockey Unfiltered, at Todd Lewis Sports, our Twitter and Instagram handles. Last call for Dog of the Day nominations. Hashtag is HU Dog of the Day. Send them to us via Twitter, via Instagram, post them on our Facebook page. We'll choose a winner and honor that dog with a place in the gallery on our website and up on our Facebook page. We just like cool dog pictures. We're a dog-friendly program. We do it every Saturday and ask you to submit your Dog of the Day photos. In our next segment, Isabelle Khurshudyan with more on the Washington Capitals. Win in game number 1 of the Eastern Conference Final over the Tampa Bay Lightning, and look ahead to game number 2 as well. Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis, back with more after the break.
Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis sends you to the biggest events at the best prices. This year, we've partnered with Seat Giant to give you special deals on tickets to NHL games, concerts, or other events. Simply go to SeatGiant.com, find the tickets you want. When you check out, use the promo code TODD for a special discount. That's promo code TODD for a special discount. Start saving with SeatGiant.com on your next purchase. Get your business started getting more leads. 1-844-SEO-LEAD. The number to call if you want more online leads for your business is 1-844-SEO-LEAD. Search engine optimization can be the difference between success and failure. It's no coincidence which businesses are listed first in Google searches. Call 1-844-SEO-LEAD. Now it's even easier to nominate your dog as the Hockey Unfiltered Dog of the Day. We do it every Saturday. Send us a photo on Twitter or now on Instagram with the hashtag HU Dog of the Day. We choose a winner every Saturday. That's simple. Now on Instagram or Twitter, send us the photo using the hashtag HU Dog of the Day, and your dog could be the one added to our gallery on the website and Facebook page. It's the Hockey Unfiltered Dog of the Day every Saturday. Cutting-edge design for manufacturing, Nova Product Design. Industrial design, mechanical engineering and design. Nova Product Design provides experienced design for parts and assemblies, manufacturing, assembly, and serviceability. From plastic parts to sheet metal forming, mold and tool design, injection molding, and more. Nova Product Design. Visit novaproductdesign.com to learn more. So you had to get groceries, take your daughter to dance class, and a pipe burst in the kitchen. You missed Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis. No problem. All of our shows are available as a podcast right after the show airs. so you can listen when life gets in the way of hearing us live. Subscribe through iTunes and get alerts as soon as the podcast is available, or go to our website, hockeyunfiltered.com, and listen. Plus, check out the other cool stuff, the Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis podcast. Subscribe now through iTunes.
Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis Saturday edition continues up to the top of the hour. Back again tomorrow, Sunday at our regular time, live at 11 Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific at hockeyunfiltered.com, streaming live on the Hockey Unfiltered app, at Hockey Unfiltered, at Todd Lewis Sports, our Twitter and Instagram handles. Caps were victorious in game number 1 of the Eastern Conference Final against the Tampa Bay Lightning. They will go for win number 2 Sunday in Tampa Bay. Isabelle Khurshudyan covers the Capitals for the Washington Post. Follow her on Twitter at Khurshudyan. She joins us now. Isabelle, thanks for juggling and squeezing in a time for us. How happy are the Washington Capitals to be up 1-0 in the series, and they continue their success of winning on the road in these playoffs?
Yeah, I think they're, pretty pumped to kind of be in the driver's seat a little bit, but, they also understand that, hey, they lost the first game in both their, the first round series and their second round series. And they still came back to win those, obviously. And, Tampa, lost that first game to Boston its last series and, came back to win that one in 5 games. So they know, it's a good step. It's obviously a good thing. But it doesn't stop there. You have to kind of build on that because, game 1 it's not going to decide anything. Things can turn very quickly. So they have the right, I think, philosophy as far as that is concerned.
The thing that makes it so significant for me is that they played a similar kind of very smart game in game number 1 of this series as they did to close out the Pittsburgh Penguins. They did it partly out of necessity with Nick Backstrom out of the lineup, and I think that should pose some concern for those on the other side in this series.
Yeah, you've definitely seen them, I guess, figure out how to play without Backstrom, which is a huge step. I feel like they might have bought Backstrom like another game. He could have, I thought if they lost, like maybe they were going to feel like they should rush him back or something. And now you're up 1-0, you've won 2 straight games without him. Maybe you can hold off and like wait until like game 3 or, because you're playing with house money. I mean, the goal when you have these 2 games on the road is to steal 1, so you come back to your building, with the series tied for the next 2 games. So they've at least done that much. I feel like they figured out, okay, we can't afford to trade chances with a team like Tampa Bay or, with a team like Pittsburgh. They're just deeper in their forward core. They might be deeper throughout their whole lineup. So the way to do it is to kind of play this defensive minded style, and they've gotten so much better about doing that as a team, and it honestly provides a really good kind of model for them even when Backstrom gets back. I think this is the best way for them to play and a very team oriented kind of thing, and they're seeing how it's working, so the buy-in is only growing from it.
I agree with you that when Nick Backstrom does come back into the lineup, that it's important that they continue to play this way. It's not just about defense, though. It's defense first, and then also being able to capitalize on the opportunities when they do come about, because there will be opportunities for scoring and for offense. Some of them on the power plays they took advantage of last night against the Tampa Bay Lightning, but there will be opportunities. But as long as you focus on defense first, you're putting yourself in the best possible position.
Yeah, I feel like at some point these Caps kind of became like kind of this like blue collar, hardworking team, but they still have all these like really high skilled guys. I think maybe a flaw of those like teams in the past was that like they were so talented, they just knew they were going to score, and maybe some of those little details kind of fell by the wayside, and it showed in the playoffs when those things all become more magnified. And this year, the roster had more flaws and more kind of deficiencies, and they had to work really hard to overcome that. And then you're seeing now kind of the fruits of that. And, they still have guys like Ovechkin and Kuznetsov and, TJ Oshie and, some of their younger skilled forwards too, that they can even when they're playing really smart and really detailed, those guys don't need that many opportunities. Like, they know how to capitalize. So it's a good, balance, and I think that's, helped them tremendously in this postseason.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Isabelle Khurshudyan is our guest, covers the Capitals for the Washington Post, at Khurshudyan to follow her on Twitter. Game number 2 of the Caps and Lightning goes on Sunday evening at Amalie Arena. And you mentioned Kuznetsov and Ovechkin. I don't know who's having a better postseason, but those two seem to be almost feeding off each other and having great point-producing seasons.
Yeah, you're seeing, I thought for Ovechkin, Game 6, he was just, I don't think he scored that game. He didn't score that game, but he played just really smart and kind of led the way for that committed, very detailed game, and, checking kind of very thoughtfully and being on the right side of things. And, that's when he's kind of playing his best, and that's going to lead him to, scoring a lot of goals like he has this postseason. And Kuznetsov, he's so skilled that he's able to kind of take over a game sometimes, even when he's got, a really good center, good two-way center like Braden Point on him. I mean, I felt like they had the puck most of the game last night, and he can do that with his skating. And even when they're playing sort of this maybe lower event kind of game, lower event, tighter checking games, he still finds a way to, his skills still come through, and obviously complements Ovechkin really well. And the guy who, is really important to that line is Tom Wilson. And I thought, they struggled to kind of replace him. I mean, they still, won 2 games without Wilson when he was suspended, but I think they need that physicality, kind of him to keep pucks alive and create room. And he's also probably the most defensively responsible of those 3. And that's important too when you're out there against, Point, Palat, and Johnson are, obviously really all talented, defensive players, but they're really talented offensive players too. Braden Point 32 goals. And I think that line is just, they found something at some point towards the end of the year, and that's why Trotz has kept them together this whole time.
I agree with you. And Tom Wilson, I thought, had a good game on Friday. I think it was uneventful, which I think was part of it. But it's not that he wasn't noticeable in doing his job. I think he played very sound and efficiently, kind of the way most of the Capitals did. And the other player that I think is worthy of some attention because of Backstrom being out and his needing to take on a larger role is Lars Eller. I think he's been great.
Yeah, Lars has been fantastic. Montreal kind of put him in that, second line center role at times, and he was bumped around to the wing. And, in Washington, he really kind of found a home at third line center. But I don't think the Caps ever thought he wasn't good enough, if he was pressed into a bigger role. And, he said today that he learned a lot, just from watching Ovechkin and Kuznetsov, that it helped. He felt like the culture of the team and, seeing those guys playing in front of him, it made it really easy for him to accept his third line role because he kind of knew those guys, were ahead of him. But he was just able to kind of see how they, do their thing and take pieces of that for himself. And I think, they don't win these 2 games without him playing the way he has. I don't think he's really changed anything about kind of his style or anything like that. He's always been a very strong two-way puck-possessing center, but Oshie, and Vrana, they played together for spurts during the season, and they're a good trio. And it's not just the even strength; it's him on the power play. It's him, killing penalties. He's playing a lot of minutes right now with Backstrom out, and I think he's been a huge part of their success.
Yeah, no question. I think he's played really well, and he wouldn't be the first forward that Montreal has screwed up in the time that he was there either. Washington Capitals game number 2 with Tampa Bay Lightning going on Sunday evening, and I have to mention again that Braden Holtby has just been sensational since taking over the net in round number 1. I don't think it was done on purpose. I don't think it was done with a plan. I think Barry Trotz handled the start of the playoffs right, but Holtby, I don't know what if it's given him some extra motivation or just the rest and refocus has helped, but he's been really good in the postseason.
Yeah, I wonder if this whole season for him was like a blessing in disguise, and he didn't end up playing that many games because he was sort of struggling. And so, you know, in the years past, he played 60 plus. This year, I think he was less than 55 games. And, you know, what if, like, by the time he kind of gets the net back, that he's sort of more rested and more, you know, kind of fresher, and maybe that makes him sharper for this time of year. And, you know, it's also the team's playing better in front of him. You know, when he was struggling, it was a lot of, you know, floppy kind of play directly in front of him that was leading to, you know, some tough chances to stop. But certainly, you know, he was fighting the fight times, and I think he was able to, you know, take a little bit of time off, kind of reset, as Barry Trotz puts it, and recalibrate himself. And, you know, the good thing about him is that he never doubted, I guess, his own ability. He knew, hey, I'm a Vezina Trophy winning goaltender. I was an all-star, like, literally in January. Things are not that bad. Like, he didn't just overnight become a bad goaltender. It was just, you know, a couple small things. And, you know, in the NHL, you can be just, you know, a hair off, and that's a goal. And, you know, the difference between, you know, a 2.00 goals against average and a 3.00. And, you know, that's obviously a goalie who's, you know, at the top of his game, and one that, you know, might be looking at an AHL assignment. So I think he kept, you know, faith in himself, and that certainly, you know, made a difference when he got back in there, that his confidence wasn't shaken, that he was still, you know, he trusted in his own game, and didn't let the minor, I guess, setback derail his whole game in the process.
Yeah, I would agree. The other thing about this series that I'm interested in following and lurking about a little closer is that Barry Trotz has referenced and said once or twice that he learned a lot about himself and learned a different approach last summer after their loss against the Pittsburgh Penguins, eliminated from the postseason again, and heading into this season, he learned and just kind of began to figure out how to accept that and move forward and understand the game. And I don't know if it's just kind of whatever he's figured out has kind of rubbed off on the team a little bit, but it seems as though they're in a mentally comfortable place for this series.
Yeah, he sort of went through this like process this summer where he just kind of let go of a lot of things. You know, he told me he had some friends pass away, and just kind of had this, you know, moment where, you know, he's 55 and realized, you know, he has a lot more meaning in life than hockey, right? He has a family who, you know, loves him very much. He loves a lot. He's done a lot with his life outside of hockey, and kind of, you know, obviously he wants a Stanley Cup, but he realized it's not going to define him, that his life is a lot more, I guess, meaningful outside of that. And it's led to like a lot of, I guess, relaxation or the pressure coming off or whatever. And it should have been a year that was like more stressful than any other, because he, you know, is in a contract year. We have no idea what his future is, which is, you know, crazy, all things considered. And, you know, the roster just also wasn't as good. And, you know, through all of that, you know, Barry was able to kind of be patient and be, you know, relaxed. And I think it helped the team in a year where maybe they needed that. Obviously he was firm when he needed to be, but, you know, he was just kind of a little bit more easygoing. And, you know, it's a veteran group that I think needed that approach. And it was a rookie core that needed someone who, you know, wasn't going to be a short leash with them. They needed to kind of grow through their own mistakes. And, you know, I think in past playoffs they've been kind of tight, and you've seen, you know, the team be kind of tight in response. And this year I thought they were super loose the whole time. I mean, that game 6, with a chance to close it out, they looked super relaxed. Like they had nothing to worry about, even though they were missing 3 top 6 players. And you could see Pittsburgh was the team that was suddenly, you know, feeling the pressure a little bit. So I think this is obviously, to me, been his best coaching job by far in Washington. And it's continuing with kind of how smart they're playing right now and how good the game plan is, you know, especially with Backstrom out.
Yeah, it's interesting. Hey, just before I let you go, has I suspect it'll start at some point, especially if Washington moves on. Has the rally around the old guy, get him a cup thing started yet for Alex Ovechkin? Oh, he's been in the league so long, we got to help him get a cup. The way it's done, it started with Joe Thornton a couple of years ago. It was like, oh, Joe's played forever, hasn't won a cup, and then that kind of rally storyline.
I think it is starting to come a little bit. Vegas might be like the better story of the teams left. Although I think some like other fan bases are a little resentful of them too.
Yeah.
Certainly I think Ovechkin, unless you live in like Pittsburgh or New York, is a kind of a lovable, goofy character. The gap-toothed smile, and now he's kind of gray, and people do find him likable, even if sometimes scoring a lot of goals against your fan base. So I think there will be some of that. Sure, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. Isabelle Khurshudyan covering the Caps for the Washington Post at @iKhurshudyan. You should be following her on Twitter. Thanks again for squeezing us in, Isabelle. We appreciate it. Great stuff as always, and I hope we talk again soon.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
All right, Isabelle Khurshudyan. And that's a good point about the little bit of the gray hair too. But I'm really fascinated about the whole Barry Trotz thing. And Isabelle talked about it really in an interesting way, in that his perspective and his focus has changed a little bit. And I think it's helped the team with the veterans and with the young players. It's not always the pressure; it's how you handle it. And he seems to be handling it better, and I think it's reflecting in his team. At Hockey Unfiltered, at Todd Lewis Sports, we'll squeeze in one more segment as much as we can to get you set for the Vegas Golden Knights and Winnipeg Jets later on tonight. And, of course, we'll be back again tomorrow at our regular time, 11 Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific. We'll have another special pregame edition as well in advance of the Tampa Bay Lightning and Washington Capitals game at 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis, back after the break.
Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis sends you to the biggest events at the best prices. This year, we've partnered with Seat Giant to give you special deals on tickets to NHL games, concerts, or other events. Simply go to SeatGiant.com, find the tickets you want. When you check out, use the promo code TODD for a special discount. That's promo code TODD for a special discount. Start saving with SeatGiant.com on your next purchase. Get your business started getting more leads. 1-844-SEO-LEAD. The number to call if you want more online leads for your business is 1-844-SEO-LEAD. Search engine optimization can be the difference between success and failure. It's no coincidence which businesses are listed first in Google searches. Call 1-844-SEO-LEAD. Now it's even easier to nominate your dog as the Hockey Unfiltered Dog of the Day. We do it every Saturday. Send us a photo on Twitter or now on Instagram with the hashtag HU Dog of the Day. We choose a winner every Saturday. That's simple. Now on Instagram or Twitter, send us the photo using the hashtag HU Dog of the Day, and your dog could be the one added to our gallery on the website and Facebook page. It's the Hockey Unfiltered Dog of the Day every Saturday. Cutting-edge design for manufacturing. Nova Product Design. Industrial design. Mechanical engineering and design. Nova Product Design provides experienced design for parts and assemblies, manufacturing, assembly, and serviceability. From plastic parts to sheet metal forming, mold and tool design, injection molding, and more. Nova Product Design. Visit novaproductdesign.com to learn more. So you had to get groceries, take your daughter to dance class, and a pipe burst in the kitchen. You missed Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis. No problem. All of our shows are available as a podcast right after the show airs, so you can listen when life gets in the way of hearing us live. Subscribe through iTunes and get alerts as soon as the podcast is available, or go to our website, hockeyunfiltered.com, and listen. Plus, check out the other cool stuff. The Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis podcast. Subscribe now through iTunes.
Man, it's been a busy show today. Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis here till the top of the hour. Back again tomorrow morning, 11 Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific at our regular time. So much stuff from this past week and NHL news that's gone on that we haven't had a chance to squeeze in. We've been spending a lot of time talking about the Eastern Conference Final on Friday night, game number 1, where the Capitals came out on top, 4-2 the final. It was a flattering score for the Tampa Bay Lightning. Sure, I expect a better game. I don't know what the level of concern the right level of concern is for the Lightning. I think it's above blow it off, don't worry about it. What are some of the other cliches I've heard since the game was concluded last night? Oh, they'll just flush this one, burn the tape, and things like that. Yeah, I don't think you put it out of your mind quite that easily. The stakes are higher in the playoffs, and as you go deeper in the playoffs, each game becomes more important. If you want to think of it, and I'd say this not to put pressure on, but the Washington Capitals are, with their victory on Friday, 25% of their goal has been accomplished. And the goal is to win 4 games before the other team does. Caps with 1 victory have accomplished 25% of that goal. Oh, it's 25%. I was told that wasn't good enough in school. Really, I was all the way through. But it's a significant amount. Best of 7, yes. But if they get to 4 in 5 or 6, you don't get to play all 7. So my level of concern is a little bit more significant. The update from Barry Trotz, by the way, is that Nick Backstrom is working out off the ice today. No real indication as to if he's going to be available for game number 2. As Isabelle Khurshudyan just told us in the last segment, she believes that the victory on Friday has bought him at least another game to help heal his hand injury. Why would you put him in if you can give him more time to rest? You're already up 1. Even if you go back home even, that's not the worst case scenario. We'll see what happens. Western Conference Final gets going Saturday evening in Winnipeg. The Vegas Golden Knights taking on the Jets. Vegas was about 500-1 at the start of the season. If you were making a wager on a prop bet for who was winning the Stanley Cup. Now, okay, I don't think the Jets had much better odds at the start of the season. But here we are, Western Conference Final, Winnipeg hosting Vegas. I know it's still sinking in a little bit for me. I'm excited by it. I think it's terrific, but it's still sinking in, the reality of the whole thing. Both teams have had success beyond their imaginations, certainly more so Vegas. But it's pretty cool to have these 2 teams facing off against one another. I don't know how you come up with a favorite other than Jets have more points in the regular season. Not a lot. I think it was 5 more points that Winnipeg had in the regular season. So you make them the favorite. They have home ice advantage. Jets had a tougher road, I would say, to get there, moving through the Central Division versus Vegas, who had the Pacific Division. But we're splitting atoms at this point. It's a toss-up series. I don't know who you give momentum to. I don't know who you give the major factors of favor to. William Carrier looks like he's going to miss the game. Maybe that means that Ryan Reeves goes in for the Vegas Golden Knights. That from Mike Russo saying Carrier was going to miss. I don't know. It's going to be an intriguing series. I'm looking. I mean, the Vegas Golden Knights are the vagabonds that all converged in one city. Everybody rejected them. The rejects they've billed themselves. I don't know, but I think it's going to be fun. If you're lucky enough to be in Winnipeg for the game and participating in the party outside, which I think they've basically closed off the whole city. There will be another flyover in advance of the game, which is great. The RCAF is using CT-155 Hawk training jets to do a flyover. It'll be a total whiteout inside the building. It'll be a whiteout outside the building. And I'm intrigued by the whole atmosphere and excitement. Last time Winnipeg was home, remember, they had a chance to close it out against Nashville. Kind of the pressure maybe was felt a little bit. I think that will have dissipated. I think it will be, I think it could be a really good offensive game. We might get the series that we hoped for with Nashville and Winnipeg in this one, in the Western Conference Final with Vegas and Winnipeg. I think Vegas plays charge it up and down the ice. They're not as likely to go into the strong defensive structure the way that Nashville did for a number of games against the Winnipeg Jets. So maybe it is 60 minutes of trading chances up and down the ice. I'm okay with that. I can sign on for 7 games of that. I can sign on for some extra time of that. I'm really good about that at all. There's a bunch of stuff I mentioned that we didn't have a chance to get into today. We haven't talked about the Maple Leafs at all because they were trying to horn in on the news cycle on Friday by naming Kyle Dubas as their new general manager. We'll deal with some of that tomorrow because I think there's a lot of people that are completely missing the boat about what's going on in Toronto, and I got to say, I'm not completely surprised. Our thanks to Isabelle Khurshudyan, to Jim Diamond, to Joe Smith, and Chris Peters, all for joining us on the program today. Back again tomorrow morning, 11 Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific, for another edition of Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis.
Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis sends you to the biggest events at the best prices. This year, we've partnered with Seat Giant to give you special deals on tickets to NHL games, concerts, or other events. Simply go to SeatGiant.com, find the tickets you want. When you check out, use the promo code TODD for a special discount. That's promo code TODD for a special discount. Start saving with SeatGiant.com on your next purchase. Get your business started getting more leads. 1-844-SEO-LEAD. The number to call if you want more online leads for your business is 1-844-SEO-LEAD. Search engine optimization can be the difference between success and failure. It's no coincidence which businesses are listed first in Google searches. Call 1-844-SEO-LEAD. Now it's even easier to nominate your dog as the Hockey Unfiltered Dog of the Day. We do it every Saturday. Send us a photo on Twitter or now on Instagram with the hashtag HU Dog of the Day. We choose a winner every Saturday. That's simple. Now on Instagram or Twitter, send us the photo using the hashtag HU Dog of the Day, and your dog could be the one added to our gallery on the website and Facebook page. It's the Hockey Unfiltered Dog of the Day every Saturday. Cutting-edge design for manufacturing. Nova Product Design. Industrial design. Mechanical engineering and design. Nova Product Design provides experienced design for parts and assemblies, manufacturing, assembly, and serviceability. From plastic parts to sheet metal forming, mold and tool design, injection molding, and more. Nova Product Design. Visit novaproductdesign.com to learn more. So you had to get groceries, take your daughter to dance class, and a pipe burst in the kitchen. You missed Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis. No problem. All of our shows are available as a podcast right after the show airs, so you can listen when life gets in the way of hearing us live. Subscribe through iTunes and get alerts as soon as the podcast is available, or go to our website, hockeyunfiltered.com, and listen. Plus, check out the other cool stuff. The Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis podcast. Subscribe now through iTunes.